Now, here's a really interesting one. Is there a cure for alcoholism? An injection into the brain could reduce the amount alcoholics drink by 90%. And that's according to a recent study that's at the moment still being done on monkeys. But apparently the early trials are amazing.
Yes, on rhesus monkeys, an astonishing early trials which use a treatment for Parkinson's disease to reset the brain's pleasure pathways have been incredibly effective. The drug could help alcoholics to reduce their drinking and to avoid relapses.
I mean, is this the precious thing that we've all been praying for? Let's speak now to David Bremner, who's medical director at Turning Point. A very good morning to you, David. I mean, this does sound like very good news. Can you explain the science to us a little?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's always great to come and talk about the issues that people with alcohol dependence face. This is a very small study in 8 monkeys, so I think we need to have guarded optimism about this. But what they're hypothesizing is that they are able to modify how a person with a genetic propensity to alcohol dependency actually experiences the pleasure of drinking. And we know that alcoholism and alcohol dependence is very strongly genetically linked. Adoption studies have proven this. So it's of great value to start looking at a treatment system that focuses on that particular area of how people become alcohol dependent. It is in its infancy. It is in monkeys. We are by no way suggesting that people with alcohol dependence are going to have injections in their brains, but any focus on treatments and potential remedies for alcohol dependence is welcomed by the alcohol treatment industry.
So, David, when you understand the addictive cycle of alcohol, there's the huge rush of endorphins the brain gets when it wants something, anything that it's addicted to, and there's also the anxiety of not having it. At which point of that cycle, if you like, or is it just the alcohol coming in and the effect it has on the brain? At which point does this injection kind of interfere with that process?
Well, the hypothesis here is that it interferes with that peak of pleasure that people characteristically feel. I think that when I can remember as a youngster, if I wanted something from a parent, I would, from my dad in particular, I'd wait till he had had his second drink, then I'd ask him. Because my dad was not an alcoholic, I was able to see that alcohol took a while to affect his judgment. However, any of us who've seen old episodes of Dallas, for example, we can see how Sue Ellen, in those experiences, she would experience that peak immediately. And what we see in people who are alcohol dependent is a very different response to that initial sip of alcohol. And this is what that study is hoping to remedy.
A drug. Sorry, David, I don't think you heard me. Is it a particular drug that's being injected?
Well, in this study, it's a particular protein that's been injected into these monkeys' brains as part of their treatment for Parkinsonism. But it's a protein that adjusts the neural pathway that the monkey then uses for that pleasure center. So it's a particular protein that they're injecting.
It's fascinating because previous treatments, of course, have introduced feelings of nausea or made people feel ill when they take alcohol. But this, by directly interfering with the pleasure principle, I assume would make people think, well, what's the point drinking if I'm not getting anything out of it? So therefore, the giving up of alcohol becomes a voluntary process because it ceases to become effective. It seems to have great merit on paper.
It most certainly does. And what we have to realize is, as with all substances of addiction, what one person experiences and what another person experiences are very different. So, one man on the street having a sip of beer has a very different experience and wants more of that substance in a specific way that is very different to how somebody with alcohol dependence, once they have that sip of beer, for example. So this is ideally what we hope hope that this is going to be able to do is to have a normal pleasure center response to any alcohol intake.